Okay, everyone, welcome to Growth Show by PipeRocket. It's very exciting to see you all here today. If you're new here, I'm just going to take a moment to introduce PipeRocket to you. PipeRocket is a B2B digital marketing startup. We help SaaS marketing teams build scalable growth engines across SEO, performance marketing, paid marketing, content. We have had 50 plus SaaS brands already, and we are your marketing team just from outside. So we'll talk about PipeRocket more later. And about today's session. It's a very, very interesting topic because I have seen most of the marketing teams getting it wrong, thinking they're doing it right. It looks very simple on the surface level, but if you dig deeper, everyone misunderstands it. It's all about webinars. We're going to talk about webinars completely. And when we wanted to talk about webinars, I could not find a better guest than Cindy Dubon. She heads growth marketing function at Goldcast. She's based out of California. She's a revenue-driven marketer. She specializes in many aspects of marketing, but to point out few, she's an expert in demand generation, account-based marketing, and most relevantly for today, she drives webinar programs that actually drive real pipeline. So why I find Cindy's perspective very valuable for today's session is she's not someone who just advises other companies to build webinar programs. She's someone who has done it all by herself for Goldcast from inside for a company whose product is built around digital events. Over the past year, in Goldcast, she has driven $19 million pipeline just through digital events and webinars. So she's just going to hand over the playbook to us today, and we cannot be thankful for that. And when we are talking about webinars, I really have to mention Goldcast here because you're going to need them sooner or later if digital marketing, event marketing is in your strategy in the upcoming sessions. So it's an AI video content platform. And they just don't run webinar programs for you. They turn every single event of yours into a content engine. We are talking about repurposing your sessions into clips, blogs, social posts, basically demand gen assets automatically with AI. So we'll talk about all these later. Cindy's also going to talk about this to us. Before we start the session, I just have a few instructions for you. Please drop your questions in the chat box, but avoid spamming the chat so that we can focus on the session completely. And if your notes taker app is creating a lot of disturbance in between, please remove them from the call so that it will be easier for us to make sure it's everyone can focus on it. I don't want others to wait longer. We want to hear it from Cindy. So over to you, Cindy.
Thank you so much, Kutana. I really appreciate it. You're making me nervous, hyping me up. But hello, everyone. My name is Cindy Dubon. I'm the Director of Growth Marketing at Goldcast, now a Cvent product. I am based in Southern California, Orange County, right by Disneyland, if you are unfamiliar with Orange County. But yeah, as she mentioned, I have had the unique opportunity of really ramping up our webinar program over the past year and a half prior to acquisition. From a high level, I'll jump into DAC pretty soon. We mostly focus, for obvious reasons, Goldcast, where we started was a webinar product. I think in 2020, when the pandemic was hitting, everyone started seeing Goldcast as emerging as really a webinar product. It has since then evolved into a AI video content platform. We believe that video is a core piece to capturing mind share. And if you're a demand marketer or truly a B2B marketer in today's space, you know that if someone is in the market for something and you're not top of mind, you've already lost the battle. And so for us here at Goldcast and now Cvent, we think of that in terms of mind share. And we believe video is the best way to capture mind share. You will see all of these social algorithms are optimized for video. And to put it short, when you see video of people in your feed, whether it's on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is, like you become more familiar with them. And as a result, you're more familiar with their brand. So without further ado, I'm just going to run us through this deck I put together. And please comment in the chat. Love to know where everyone's joining from today. I see so many note takers. This is the first for me presenting to a large group of note takers. All right, there we go. Aaron, I see you have audio issues, so I hope we'll figure that out for you. But if not, there are plenty of note takers that can hopefully share over the notes. But today, we are going to be focusing on how to turn digital events into an actionable revenue engine. I've geared this towards startups, but I think this really works for anyone who's either thinking about starting a webinar program, already starting one, or looking in terms of how to optimize. I run through different phases of the webinar journey. I think I was alluding to, so at Goldcast, our main channels are paid, and we work with PipeRocket. We are very happy customers of PipeRocket. If anyone would like to take me up and understand how we use them, I'd love to talk about that. But paid is a big channel for us. Webinars is a big channel for us because we are very product is hosted on a webinar product, right? And then we partner with a lot of promotional vendors outside of our paid LinkedIn and Google channels to really like extend the reach of our programs. We know definitively that if someone experiences the Goldcast platform, they really have a good understanding, and that will be any, demo request that can come in. They will see it firsthand for themselves. And then we do also like ABM gifting. Direct mail is a big component of that. And you can imagine one-to-one advertising and one-to-one nurturing exists as well. But for the purpose of digital events, I call it digital events because at Goldcast, we have two different styles of events digitally. One is webinar, which I will mostly talk about. And then the other one is a virtual event, which emulates, you think like an in-person event. There is a main stage, multiple sessions, multiple speakers. So we're really talking about like a 90 or a 60-minute webinar, 45 to 60-minute webinar. And then we have virtual events that span a whole day, half day, multiple days. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well. Moving on. So we'll start off covering why most webinar programs fail. If you're attending live, I'd love to hear why you think most webinar programs fail. Then we'll move into finding the right program for your business or the state of your business. And then I will walk through every nook and cranny of our playbook and how we make webinars a really strong revenue engine. And then I'll share some benchmarks that I will be fully transparent that ChatGPT helped me with. So it's actually sourced from Goldcast as well as our On24 and other data. But why most webinars fail? Courtney, thank you. Lack of promotion. Okay. For me, it's what I call the checkbox trap. And it's really because I think when webinars started, immediately people were like, oh my gosh, we can reach so many people for free. Let's just demo our product to them. And so in most cases, I find that webinars are started off as a way to get quicker demo requests. And truly, like, that's just not where we're seeing success. I think you can see success like that in some industries, but for Goldcast in Cvent, we market to marketers, and we have such a high threshold for what's good that when we're pitch slapping people on webinars, it just doesn't really work. So where I see a lot of startups honestly fail. And fun fact, when I first started my very first webinar program, I don't know, back in like 2013, I had a general manager come up to me and be like, we need to start a monthly webinar program. And we had to get on that webinar every month and just demo the product. And it started out like really cool because I think webinars weren't really, popular then. And then quickly, like you saw that people stopped showing up. We went from like 100 registrations down to like 19 over time, and like it just wasn't it. So if you're running the event, sending the recording, and then moving on, you're probably in the checkbox trap. If you don't have a clear goal outside of like, let's get demos or using those leads as hand raisers, also a reason why you fail. I think the topic, much like if it's a demo request, if the topic's super vague or it's not actually helpful in any way to your audience, people are going to sniff that out real fast. You have to really consider the fact that, for someone to join, virtually, even if it's running in the background, that's like one thing they don't actually have to do. No one is making them go to this webinar, barring that you need CPE credits. But like for you to tune into a webinar, that's you investing your time. And if you can't get people value in the amount of time they're spending, even if it's divided, it's just not going to be successful. And then I'll talk a little bit more about this, but the experience of the event, I think a lot of people think that, once the webinar is live, that's when everything happens. But what I have found is at Goldcast, we actually treat webinars much like in-person events. There isn't the added overhead cost of traveling and being in person, but we work in partnership with our sales team, much like we do an in-person event. I'll talk more about that playbook, but we really try to nurture every lead prior to the event. And then follow-up is really important as well. So it's not enough anymore to be like, thanks for coming to the webinar, want a demo? Like, no, they don't. And if they did, they would have requested that demo already. And so you got to really think about how are you going to add value? How are you going to continue this conversation? Because if you're doing marketing well, what I like to say is like you're selling, but not actually having to sell someone on something. And so you're selling the value of your company, the value of your product, the value of your expertise, the value of you as a partner for them in what they do. And inevitably building that relationship is what's going to lead to more mind share. And when they're in the market for something that you provide, you're top of mind. And then success being measured in registrations, not revenue. That's a quick way to get this line item just crossed off. Because if we're going to sit here and be like, I got so many leads off of this, this is not what I like to say is probably you're playing stupid games and you're going to win stupid prizes. And so while registrations is a good indicator, and I certainly track registrations, I want to see it, either maintain or increase over time. It's what you do with that after that really matters. So just, showing my notes over 2025, last year, crazy year, also the year we got acquired, we ran over 100 programs. I think I personally ran 20 to 30 of these programs. These webinars or virtual events was part of them. And at the time that this was captured, it was actually, I think at the end of November, we were tracking 19 million plus in pipeline related to these events. This is saying source. It's not quite accurate because sometimes it's a deal that was accelerated, but overall $19 million in pipeline attributed to this as a channel. And it boils down to 3 programs for us, 3 types of webinar programs. One is our monthly insider series. The second one is a quarterly virtual event program. And the last one we piloted towards the tail end of last year, which was a really bottom funnel focused program. So, I do know a little bit about what I'm talking about. And if you have any questions, please drop them in. I'm monitoring the chat, but I'll keep us moving because there's some good stuff on the way. So here's really I want us to really anchor on this before we leave this call and start going on our merry way of doing webinars. You really got to think through what is the right webinar program for your business, because not all webinar programs are built the same and not all of them solve a purpose. I mentioned at Goldcast, we have 3 different ones. We have a monthly insider, we have the quarterly event, and then we had that bottom funnel demo series. There were reasons why we had all 3 of those. So before I get there, you need to start with your business reality. Depending on where you are, in your business, where your business is at, if you don't have a database to market to, you're probably building a webinar program to build that database, right? And that's our insider series. So we do top of funnel, broader based topics. We really try to anchor on playbooks that people can walk out of, because we've all been to those high level thought leadership. This is what marketing should do. And then you're like, great, but how do I start doing it, right? And so we anchor the topic with, let's say one really trending topic in the marketplace is buying signals, right? Everyone's talking about buying signals. And then you're like, but what about MQLs? What about MQL, 6 QAs, account-based marketing, funnel, all that stuff. And so we're like, what do we mean when we're talking about buying signals? How is that different from intent or anything else? And then what should I do about it? And so that was a topic we had on our insider series. We brought in folks that are experts in the space. I believe we had a panel discussion, which tends to work out well from a top of funnel. But the whole goal of that program was to get high registration, get as much of our ICP in the system, because this was the beginning of our conversation with them. It wasn't where we were going to convert them into demo requests. Certainly some of them did, but the bulk majority of it was to initiate a conversation with them and to start building that relationship. If you actually have a big database, maybe you've been, acquiring leads through various channels for a long time, and you're just like, man, this big database, and nothing's really coming from it. We're not getting that conversion that we want. People aren't demoing the product. People aren't engaging with our content. And so this is where you're kind of going down, and maybe you're moving beyond the top of funnel thought leadership style, and you're actually talking more about use cases, help your prospects do their job better. And so bringing customers on, bringing influencers on the space, and maybe it's not them directly using your product, but it's them doing something that you preach. And so for me, it's it'd be great to get someone who's using Goldcast to come on and talk about Goldcast, but I also will take someone who is just doing webinars in a really fresh way, right? And maybe what they're hammering on, the pre-event playbook, post-event playbook, but they're not on a product, that's okay too, because you're offering value in a space that you want to do business in, right? And so I think for a big database that's not converting, you want to aim towards like use cases, ways that your products kind of help them do their job better, but without doing the demo. And then the last piece of this is like you have pipeline that's just stalling. So maybe folks are needing that added testimonial from your customers. This is our third type of series. I mentioned the bottom funnel. We brought on other vendors in the space that talk through like how you can use their data with Goldcast data to make your marketing program better. And so for us, I understand I'm like marketing to marketers, so it's unique to our business. But I think knowing that, for your ICP tends to have these 2 products or these 4 products, figuring out a way to like help them piece together the various products that they use on a day-to-day. Like for marketers, maybe it's like project management and the webinar program. How can we have those 2 systems working better, right? Or maybe it's a design like Canva. If you're using AI for Canva, like how can you figure out, working quicker with Canva and then the webinar as well. So all that to say, like 1, you got to like understand where your business is at, and 2, think of it creatively around how you can help your ICP. So understanding your prospects or customers is very, very critical here. So the mistake most startups make is, I can beat on this all day. It's like running a conversion play before you've earned the audience. And so if I don't know who you are and what you do, why would I suddenly go on and be like, let me demo this product? Let me go carve out budget I didn't plan on spending today on a product that I didn't even know about, or a team I had no idea, like, are you trustworthy? Are you validated, right? And so this is where mindshare comes into play. Like before you can get to that conversation, you got to earn respect and you got to earn the right to, be top of mind. And so how do you do that? You either are a subject matter expert in the space and you dictate to people how you do things, or you can borrow credibility from other influencers in the space, your customers. And by having other people kind of show the work for you, like, hey, webinars is like for me, right? Webinars helped me, our business, achieve 19 million pipeline, like period, the end. And if you don't care about webinars at all, maybe all you do is listen to this and be like, all right, in the event that I want to dive into webinars, there's a world where I can get 19 million in pipeline. Cindy's one person that I can DM and ask her questions right away. Like that's you getting out there and you building mindshare without actually ever asking for a demo. And then just to recap, like I mentioned, the 3 programs: monthly insider, that's very mindshare focused. Our product demo series, I think we called it the AI revenue playbook. If anyone wants any links to this, please send me a DM on LinkedIn. Happy to share the links, or you can check it out on the Goldcast website. But this is the one where we partnered with Clay, with Sendoso. I can't remember. I think we also did one with Vector, which Abby works at Vector. So we did one with Vector, and we kind of talked through how you can use those different, tech pieces to better leverage your Goldcast system or make your webinar program more successful. And then our quarterly brand events, I hope you guys have seen them. If not, we have one upcoming at the end of May. But that one is going to be a 2-day virtual event. It is focused on how to make pipeline a breeze, and the whole, outside of the event being on Goldcast, the whole point of that is for you to walk away with understanding, like, what are the playbooks, the tips and tricks I can run so that I can more easily generate pipeline for my business on top of what I'm already doing. And so a little bit work smarter, but also, steal from the greats. We have some really, really impactful speakers coming on. And so I will let you guys check out the landing page at some point to learn more about that. All right, so now I'm going to break down the playbook. And this is how we at Goldcast run webinar events. So we have a before, a during, and an after motion here. For us, before the webinar, and we're talking, for me, candidly speaking, I partner with a lot of like media companies or communities. They really have the reach into the audience that I need, that I would like to talk to. And so I'm committed on dates long before I have my topics or my speakers. And so typically for us, we're like, great, we have a webinar, fortunately at this point we are planned the next 2 or 3 months out. So what is that, 4 months from now, August? So like, we got to figure out what the topic's gonna be for August. The way to fail at this is to be like, oh, great, let's just do a Goldcast demo in August and let's call it a day, right? Because no, that's probably doesn't make the most sense. I know that for August, I'm going to be going into a busy fall season. Maybe, I will scroll through LinkedIn and I will see what topics tend to be trending, what things are people replying on. And I really want to find a topic that is not only like top of mind and interesting, but that will also somehow provide value for the folks running webinar programs. So it's like, I can easily pick a topic and be like, how to do XYZ with AI. And like, that's fine, but how to use AI to, more quickly build your webinar content is probably going to deliver a way more value to my audience than how to do AI in general, right? So topic selection from there, for me, the motion is like going through LinkedIn and looking at who's kind of speaking on these topics. And those are the people I'm outbounding to as speakers. Fortunately, like, because we market to marketers and these folks are trying to build a reach in the marketing space, it's mutually aligned. And so I will say, and I think most people say this when they start podcasts or webinars, 9 times out of 10, if you ask, people will agree to it. If they don't, it's most likely because they're actually busy. It's not because they don't want to, it's because they're above it. Like, people actually more often than not are happy to share their expertise and help other folks in the space. Pre-event for us is also a big thing. For every registered person, we try to have one of our SDRs reach out and start to foster a relationship. And when I say reach out, I don't mean, hey, want to take a demo. I mean, treating this like it is an in-person event. Hey, saw that you registered. Let me know if you have any questions. Hi, saw that you might be interested in this topic. Is there any, is there any content I can give to you? Or maybe it's like, hey, saw that you're registered for this webinar on webinars. Did you see our webinar benchmark report? Here's an asset, check it out. But it's facilitating that relationship and starting to nurture before, right, the webinar even begins. I'm running an insider webinar tomorrow, and our SDR team has been like hammering on our reg list. And I have so many questions. I was actually surprised. I have so many people replying, being like, hey, so-and-so, thank you so much for reaching out. Here are my questions for this event. And so I have then taken that and given it to my speakers. And so those are going to be the first Q&A that we address during the Q&A portion of the webinar. So that's the human touch outreach part of it. And then during the event, there are many things that come into play outside of the content. So one, the content, I always am like trying to make sure it's actionable. So as much as I can rant about something, I also want to be like, if you're only going to hear these 3 things, please just do these 3 things. During the actual live event, I have my SDR team working the event. Funny enough, Goldcast has the ability to DM attendees. And so my SDRs are very good at, hey, thanks for submitting your questions. Just want to let you know, like, I'm here if you need anything. We also do fun giveaways during that. And so we will encourage folks to engage. And part of it for us is getting them to test the different functions and features of the platform. And so I want you to use the chat. I want you to use the GIF and emoji reaction. I want you to submit a Q&A and see that you can submit it anonymously. So I think thinking through, like, if you have a product where the folks that are attending can interact with the product, I think encouraging them to do that in a non-salesy way is really helpful as well. We have the poll functionality. And so as part of like qualifying for the giveaway, you need to participate in the poll as well. Sometimes I actually use the polls to understand like where they are on their buying journey. Like, do you currently have a webinar program? I will then ask in the chat, like, oh, I'm curious, what are you guys all using, for your platforms right now? What do you love or don't love about your platforms? That is all intel that's helpful for us to continue the conversation for when you're ready to demo Goldcast, or when you're looking for another platform. And then the in-event CTAs is another way to, add value. There's always a demo request button. And that's why I don't push on people like requesting a demo or trying to book a demo. Because the thing is like, if you want a demo, you know how to get it already. We also, can give our slides through these, if there's a report that we're promoting, that's linked all in there. And the best part, at least for Goldcast, is that we can track all of that. And our sales team uses that as varying signals for them to do their outreach as well. And then after that, we do segmented follow-up. The usual is like they attended, they registered, they did not attend, and then they watched on demand. We typically have a 3 email sequence, and then we're working real tight with the BDR, SDR org. I'm going to have Kirtana reply on when this recording will be sent out. But for most people, best practices, I know this isn't your question, Abby, but I will answer just in general, like within 24 hours. You should send the link to recording. That should be automated. I think every platform these days does that automatically. So take one thing off your plate and make sure that you're already doing that. Yeah, we'll share these slides, so I'm not going to run through these again. But I'll call out just here, like the engagement features for us, we really leverage that at Goldcast. You don't have to have Goldcast to do this. Like, I can easily have asked you guys here, like, what webinar platform do you use, and like use the chat and mind that for the chat. If I had my SDR team on here and like they were, monitoring, they would make note of this if you were their account. But obviously I'm biased, and I think Goldcast makes all of this a lot easier. Anybody have any questions regarding the various playbooks we run at Goldcast? Besides Abby, my #1 fan in the audience right now. Yeah, so I will just encourage you, like, also after the event, I didn't mention, it's really important that after the event, in addition to just like following up on your leads, that you take that content and repurpose it. I made a joke, like there's a lot of note takers on here. I also know that PipeRocket has a bigger database that is not US based. And so my advice to even them was like, take this content and repurpose it. An easy way is just like, here's the link to the recording, but like maybe you distill this, these playbooks that I've shared, and maybe that's a carousel ad. Maybe that's an ebook that you can send out. Maybe that's suddenly a lead gen magnet, right? I think we also miss opportunities. And now there's just so many like tools that can help you do this so easily. Like, take this transcript from your note taker and like summarize that and like make that an ebook somehow, right? But extend the life of your content. If what you're doing is siloed from everything else, you will burn out. Your numbers will be doubled before you can like cross off half your to-do list. So the best thing is to come up with content that then can be derivative content, right? So like this webinar can then be a series of social posts, and that social post is promoting a guide that is coming from this webinar. Maybe it's just the slides if that's all you can do, right? Maybe you're just promoting the recording link, but all that to say, like, this is something that you can run. There's a whole different talk track that we can do, how you can take one webinar and make, 30 extra content or build out 2 quarters worth of content. But think about it from the lens of like, if you land a really big subject matter expert in your space and they do 45 minutes with you on a webinar, make that content work. Like, especially if you had to pay them to come on, which is the case sometimes, like, let's make that the first half of the year's content, because this is a subject matter expert. You can use their brand, you can ask them to promote, and that all ladders up and will help you build mindshare, help you build their database, help you convert those leads into demos, help move those deals. So like, you can see where I'm getting here. Like, it's a domino effect. What else can I go through? So BDR alignment, I know not everyone is in a boat where they, like, I actually was in a unique position where I got to manage my BDR team. And so we worked very closely. Partner with the team that is following up. If it's an email nurture, then make sure your email nurture is personalized. It feels like a human. In this age of AI, what's going to help you win and stand apart is your human, like your humanity is what I hear people say, but it's that human touch. Like, in-person events are coming back full time because it is so easy to just like be consuming AI stuff all day that it's nice to be reminded that we're all human beings. So get tight with whoever is doing the follow-up and make sure that stuff is like humanized, personalized, but also helpful. Asking them to demo, asking them to hop on a meeting, how is that going to be helpful to them? So lately for us, we actually offer one-on-one sessions with our marketing team. Like, would you be interested in a webinar, strategy discussion with our team? We can have our team come on there, and that's been well received, because whether or not they like demo the product, I've already provided value to them. We've also learned a lot about that account. And if you are a demand marketer, you know that a no is better than not getting any signal from them at all. So I'm going to start to ramp down here, but I see some questions. How long this works for complex enterprise products, enterprise buyers, think your products, same percent, different companies. Yeah, so I think for, to make it a real example, director above at Fortune 2000 company HR. So we sort of had that challenge at Goldcast. So like, marketers is a really blanket, I could just say, we're marketing marketers, but the reality is like, the person who owns the event program probably isn't the person producing video, probably isn't the person managing social channels, certainly not at like a large enterprise organization. I think for you, like if we were on a one-on-one call and you're like, what do you think? I'm like, who is advocating for your tool the best? Like, I find for me that the person wanting the webinar program will voluntarily, I'm making up words now, will volunteer themselves to talk about how great Goldcast is. And that is going to advocate and sell my product way better than I ever can, because like I work for Goldcast. And so as much as, even though I was a former customer of Goldcast before I became an employee, there's still like an air of like, well, this is like your product, right? But if you have, customers that can advocate for your product willingly, I would start there. And then the other piece of this is I would also ask that said person, like, hey, what would it take for like your coworker, your peer in the space? So like if it's HR, right, and I don't, really understand the product, but like say you sell into recruiting and you want to know how to get into like benefits, right? I would ask the person who loves the product from the recruiting side of the business, like, what are the benefits people really care about? And like, what do you think it would take for them to try out this product? And then I would probably, quite honestly, at Goldcast, try to incentivize my advocate to intro their like peer in the space. Do you use any social listening tools or resources beyond LinkedIn to help specify topics? Oh yeah. So it depends on the topic. I happen to be my own ICP. So I like naturally, I'm like, what do I care about? What am I up against for my job? Right. And so it's easy for me to have like my communities in Slack that I go and ask these things to. I will ask my vendors that I work with, like, hey, what are you like? I think one thing that came up this year for a lot of us was like, what shows are you going to? Because a lot of us want to go back to shows, but we don't know which ones. Reddit, I know I get links to Reddit all the time. I think TikTok, surprisingly, I see businesses now on Instagram and TikTok as well. And so I kind of see like what stuff is trending, because it's trending for a few reasons. It could be trending because that person paid a lot of money for it to be trending, but you can usually tell in the comments like, oh, dang, people are really engaged. I know there's also tools like Meltwater, and I'm blanking on some of the other ones, but I don't typically use those tools because historically Demand Gen doesn't manage social listening tools. That's like brand. But for me, like I know where I tend to go, like the water cooler areas, and that's where Slack communities, social media sites, and then even like other like people's events. So other complementary vendors in the space, I will go and see what people are talking about. Let me close out with benchmarks for you all. And more than anything, I would love to leave you with some lasting impressions of how to think through benchmarks. So here's the thing. Benchmarks are just like something for you to gauge against, but it is not built for your business necessarily. And I'm sure in an ideal world, we would all like to know, what is the benchmark for my company size selling this product into this market at this price value? But like, you got to just use this as a range. Okay. And like, I hope the PipeRocket team is okay with me kind of talking about this, but I know for the first US webinar, we were, kind of struggling with reg for like US attendance. And so kudos to all my people that are joining from North America. But I kind of said, like, what do you normally get? Right? What do you normally get in an audience you really get? Understand that is your benchmark. Now, where you're only up against it's not like there's 17 other webinars that you're directly competing against. You likely are, but like for you and your business and your market, where is your top and where is your bottom? And let's land somewhere in the middle for your first one. Right. And so that's kind of how I would think about these benchmarks. But if you want to talk about registration and live attendance, 33% is the average. This depends on the industry, I'm sure. Goldcast, we typically shoot for 35 plus. We land at 40 to 50% usually. The attendee to pipeline, so we're talking a qualified lead. And again, pipeline for me is like an open op with dollar value, but for some, maybe this is SAL. 20 to 40% is industry average. Cost per lead. And this is assuming you're, adding in costs, promoting this webinar with a paid channel, partnering. If you're doing a sponsored webinar, sounds like $72 average. So in that respect, less than $50 would make sense. I love this. 73% of B2B marketers rank webinars as their number one source of high quality leads. Take this with a grain of salt. This likely came from Goldcast's benchmark webinar report or on24. We were in a space where we are auditing folks or soliciting from folks that already have an active webinar program. There are many people on this planet that aren't doing webinar programs. And so, take that with a grain of salt. The last thing, and then we'll jump into full Q&A. So the one number to track if you're a demand marketer isn't new to you, but it's the pipeline source. It doesn't matter if you have a webinar, unless this is okay with your leadership team, and bless you if your leadership team is okay with you just building the database. That is a great place to be in. In almost all cases, we eventually have to convert that database. And so the number for marketing these days is pipeline. If you want to punch way above your weight, you should check out revenue as well. It doesn't really matter if we open deals all day and none of them are closing. And so you want to look at like correlating, but we all know once it's an opportunity, many factors can come into play. But you want to track leads to open ops to close one. And so, this is just like a model, if you will. If you have a 30K average deal size, you need 3 ops per webinar to make this worthwhile for, maybe it's your CAC payback. And so conversion rate, say your conversion rate is 10%, that's probably, you should aim for higher. You would need 30 qualified attendees. And so let's shoot for 75 to 100 registrations. But again, like, these are benchmarks. You got to do what's best for your business. If you're starting out and you're in an industry that like doesn't really do this, I would just start somewhere, make an educated guess of what you think you can do, and then go from there. Because at the end of the day, you're only up against yourself. Okay, now I'm going to go into Q&A. Please hit me up with all your questions. So Aaron, you said you often pay for webinars with a guaranteed set of leads. Webinars are well attended. You get a set of leads, you nurture those leads. Those leads never convert. Oh, that's interesting. So I would say, I have a lot of questions. So do these leads not convert? And like, I don't know your business. And so I'm like, what does nurture those leads? 3 to 4 touches mean? What are we saying in these touches? What is the topic of the webinar, right? Like if you're doing webinars that are so broad, and I do know that because we do quite a bit of sponsored webinars, I do know that like the broader the topic, the higher the reg, but the lower the conversion because it's too far removed from what you actually do. So I'll give you an example. Typically our webinars are like, how do you do something with webinars? So it's like whether it's having a more engaging webinar or it's how to, drive reg or how to convert more folks. It's always around a webinar. I've done webinars that are like we actually had one, I think yesterday. It was a little bit more removed and it was about like marketing to machines and how to show up in, all of the AI LLMs. That one is going to be harder for us. The reg was high, but that one will probably be harder for us to convert off of only because it was just too far removed. And so for me, we go into that webinar knowing that it's not going to convert. I actually told my sales team, like, just send them just remind them, like, we're here if we need them, but we don't want to ask for any demo because I would be put off by that. So without knowing kind of what the topic is and what you're doing after, I think for me, one, I would actually try to understand if the journey is realistic. Because if you have the webinar and it's top funnel, really like thought leadership, and you're asking for a demo, that will never convert, even if you're sending them 3 or 4 messages. But at the end of the day, if they're garbage and they actually never respond, I probably wouldn't do business with that vendor again. Or I would ask them for another set of leads. I've worked with content syndication vendors where I've returned leads because I will email people and they will have no idea what I'm talking about based on the content they promoted. Registration fatigue. My hot take, so funny, tomorrow my webinar is how to fight webinar fatigue, but this is more about registration fatigue. So I don't think fatigue is necessarily a real thing. I think fatigue is a real thing when you're not offering any value. So if you're constantly emailing me the same thing, like register now, the first 2 times you emailed me, like first time, let's say I didn't get it. Second time, I'm just not interested, right? So if it's not interesting, it's a topic thing. Maybe it's like the use case or I'm not finding value out of this. If that isn't the case, we have also tried to cut down on outreach. Like maybe the SDR is the only team that reaches out to them. And then honestly, usually when someone registers, it's very minimal. It's very like once a week. Proper to me is from a brand standpoint, once a week reach out. And if you've sent the same message twice, it's not landing, like don't do that again. And then if you're doing both marketing and sales, I would allow each side to reach out once because I think it's a little bit different from marketing versus one-to-one from a person. But same rule. You got at them twice with the same thing. Like it's just not of value. So you got to go back to the drawing board and decide like what will be of value for them. Yeah. So like Aaron, if you don't get any responses, like I don't think that's legit. Like that's my gripe with a lot of content syndication vendors. If you want to DM me, we can strategize, but I would return the leads to them, or I would push them to even give you like a free one. Okay. Why do people register for webinars and then not show up? Because people want the content, but they cannot attend live. Is there actually you do to change that behavior? So we will, depending on, like we run a target account motion. So this is ABM coming on the ABM side of the house. we will incentivize them to show up. We'll send them a coffee card. We will send them a gift. We will, especially if we notice they've registered for a few and they aren't showing up, you know, we might send them a note and be like, be funny about it, right? So either like, here's a coffee to help you power through, or like even playing the fact that, hey, saw that you didn't make it to the last 3, like, let me know if I can drop you the recording link or if there's any summary that I can give you. But at the end of the day, people are busy, you know, and like I mentioned earlier, showing up is nice, but also there's other opportunities for you to engage with them. They register because they found value in the topic. So I would continue providing value related to that topic and nurture them. There's always a handful of people who attend every single webinar brand runs. How should marketers be treating them differently? Yes, I have those. I love my fan club. I tell them it's my support group that comes in and hypes every time. I think your sales team should know that they are not a prospect. They likely have already engaged with them. So these are folks that we kind of trust the sales team to, you know, nurture selectively. It is not a required follow-up. Certainly, especially if they like already went through a demo and told us it's not it. We just remove them from sales outreach and we keep them on our marketing house list. So we like our fans, you know, and not everyone's gonna be ready to buy, and maybe they're not ready to buy, but their friend will be, and they'll tell their friend about all the great programs you've run. Do you think attendees can tell when a webinar is really just, oh yes, 100%. There's very few industries where you can get away with this. And it's the industries that are, I like to say, technology averse, where they're like, what is webinar? This is really cool. But like, even they will quickly know, because anyone who knows like a timeshare presentation is going to know when they're getting sold on a webinar. AI is changing everything in marketing right now. How do you see a change in the way webinars are run, and what should teams be paying attention to? Yeah, so I think it's really easy to get from 0 to 1 with webinars. My deck, for example, like I dumped a ton of my swirly thoughts into Claude. I had it spit me back an outline, and like anyone can do that, right? But like not everyone can tell you how they failed on that. And so I think really like hone in on your unique experience and your point of view, because that's something that AI isn't going to have. Webinars are the channel. This is just a way for you to reach people. And so it's very important for you to take stock of like, you can reach a lot of people in a short amount of time through this. What is it you want them to take away from their engagement with you? Is it that you're a cool brand? Is it that you're really smart? Is it that you're a really knowledgeable expert and you want to be part of like more conversations, and deliver that message concisely, but also make sure it's valuable for them, because that's all great for you, but like what's in it for them, right? I would encourage everyone adopting AI to remember that AI is available for everyone. And so if you're just peddling the same thing that everyone has access to, you're just like everyone. And so why would anyone do anything with you, right? Whether it's engage with your product, demo your product, do business with you, et cetera, et cetera. Which communities are you part of? Where do you do your learning? I am a part of Women in Revenue. I think runs a really good women's group. The Event Marketers Club, if you're in the event space. The Demand Collective, I really love those. They popped on my radar recently. That's a great group for demand marketers. I know Pavilion, once upon a time, was a really active group. I don't know if Rev Genius is still around. Marketing Ops, the marketingops.com community, they are really a fun bunch. I will be at their conference, Demand Expand, in May in San Francisco. I think the communities I am a part of are the communities my peers are a part of. So if there's something new that everyone's a part of, I want to be in it as well. I want to know what everyone's talking about in there. And then from my learning, I look to honestly like influencers in space, like people who I think are doing really cool things. Like right now, I want to learn more about Claude and how to use it and how to apply it in marketing. And so I scroll through LinkedIn quite a bit to see what, who's posting what and who's teaching what kind of course. And I kind of follow, the people who are commentating or people that are posting more frequently that way. If anyone was around when Chris Walker was launching Refine Labs, I learned a ton through them. And I know that their podcasts that they have, if you revisited any of them, it would still be applicable today. Exit 5 is also a community that I really, really love. All right. I think I got through everybody's questions. If I didn't, will you let me know in the chat? I tried to scroll through. All right. Well, while Kirthana's coming on, I'm going to hit you guys with the key takeaways. The last slide of my deck, if that's cool. Key takeaways. So most webinars fail because of lack of intentionality, not budget. Honestly, I've seen people do it with not a platform like Goldcast. You'll be fine. I would love for you to be on Goldcast. If you would like to be on Goldcast, send me a DM. We'll figure it out. But they fail because you're not intentional about what you're doing on there. 2, know your business reality before you pick your program type. If you need a database, stick with top of funnel type topics that are still valuable and actionable. Registration tells you a lot about someone, but it doesn't always tell you that they're ready for a demo. Be respectful of people's time. Treat them like a VIP before the event. Don't just treat them like a lead. They can get that anywhere. Design the event as a pipeline motion. I realize I blew through that all very quickly, but if anyone would like some ideas on how to level up your webinar program, my DMs are always open. Segment your follow-up by engagement, depending on what kinds of things you're doing through your event, how you've designed it. You know, if you have poll questions, you can chat. Mind that for ways to personalize your follow-up. And then at the end of the day, if you are not able to track your webinar program to business impact, we will not be set up for success. And so it's very important that you don't got to do it today. Today, if you're just starting, you don't got to do pipeline today, but you do need to work towards pipeline. So start with, you know, the reg, but eventually figure out how you get to pipeline. And for Aaron, I think it's definitely going to start with having a strong conversation with that vendor for you, because I don't think you're getting what you should be getting out of that. But we will chat soon. That's it from me. Kirtan, are you going to shut us down?
That was an impactful section, Cindy. I think I have got to learn a lot of things for my upcoming webinars too. Thank you so much. For everyone who has attended the webinar, I'm just dropping few links for your reference. If you want to know more about PipeRocket, get a free consultation on how we can amplify your marketing efforts, you can reach out to us to the link. I'm sharing the co-founder's LinkedIn profile also. You can DM Cindy about your doubts on events, webinars, and more things. There's also Goldcast's website link. And if you want to be part of Growth Show, like the main aim of Growth Show is to bring all B2B marketing minds in same space so that we can learn from each other. That's why we named it Growth Show. It's all about growth for everyone. We're not going to be very selfish about it. So if you want to be part of the community, you can join the link. And if you want to participate as a guest, you can reach out to me. And if you want to meet our co-founders directly, if you're in US, they'll be in US from May 10th to May 21st. You can DM me. We can set up some appointments with them. You can talk about how to drive your pipeline. So there are a lot of interesting sessions that are coming up. I'm so glad we had you today, Cindy.
Thank you for having me. Yes, this was really fun.
We have reached the end of the session, and if any questions come to me, I'll reroute them to you. And also I'll be sending the deck and recording to all the attendees, so you don't have to worry about it. It's going to be really useful for everyone.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. See y'all soon.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, everyone.